Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Should I get the question to confirm the audio?
Yes, audible.
Yeah. So thank you, team. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, welcome to day two Windows Server 2019 and 2022 training event. Myself, Robin. I'll be driving this program for next 4 days. Yeah. Thank you for confirming audio status through the chat option. So attendance link and general guidelines already posted on the chat. So in case if you have not seen this attendance link, Surak will be posting again this. So the joining community and the Discord link, WhatsApp group link and Facebook link, it's already pasted on the chat here. Now let's start the session here. Give me a second. Let me share my second screen here. Give me a second. Let me copy. Okay. So day one, we were discussing more about understanding about our server operating system. We had a discussion about different editions of Windows Server 2019. Today we are moving more on the practical side of OS administration. So we'll be starting with an option like how to install Windows Server 2019 on Microsoft Cloud, and we'll try to see how this can be accessed on in a cloud infrastructure and in a non-premises scenario. So yesterday we had a discussion about different versions. We understood there are two scenarios we have been considered yesterday. One was it's about on-premises. Second one, it's been like we had a discussion about cloud also. Now, on-premises scenario, if I need to install Windows Server 2019 or a 2016, there are different installation method we used to follow. One, it's been like we need to have a physical server is needed. So we'll take to physical, we'll connect to the physical server. Generally, you will have a DVD drive or a media will be available. So with the help of ISO image or a DVD drive, or if it is a VMware, ESI or Hyper-V using an ISO image, we used to install the operating system directly on the on-premises one. So the moment when you are going for installation of a operating system on in a physical server, Microsoft has been giving default configuration for installation. So configuration or what is the capacity you need it on in a server, it's been completely depends upon what is the type of the workload you are going to run it on in the server. You may be using multiple servers in your infrastructure. Maybe the same server, maybe you are going to host DHCP, DNS, Active Directory, or a file server. So it depends upon your workload. That's your decision to make what is the configuration is needed. So you need to have a proper evaluation of a performance. Based on that, you need to take a decision on the capacity or the resource configuration inside the physical server. Now, when you're going for in a on-premises one, on top of the physical server, you are installing the operating system. But when you're going for in a cloud, a couple of information we needed. One, it's been like you need to have a account is needed. So in case if you're using for installation on in a cloud, first of all, you need to have a account to be in place. You need to have a cloud account. So either you can have a free account or you can have a pay as you go model of account. Now, once the account is been created, there is a subscription is been tagged for each ID. So subscription has been mandatory. Now, third thing, it's been like you need to finalize resource group also. Resource group is something like when the moment when you configure a VM or any resource for a organizing kind of a, for example, like if you're configuring a VM on in a Microsoft cloud, along with your VM, there are many other component or a dependent resources also which been configured automatically. Now, for an organizing purpose, you have a logical container is been available. That's called a resource group. I'll come to this point practically. Now, third thing is been like in which location you are going to install this data center. That's been very, very important, because when you take a Microsoft Cloud, Microsoft has been supporting almost 54 regions. It's been supporting 54 regions and 140 location. It's been supported here. So which region you're going to host this Microsoft server? That's very, very important. So these are the um, uh, additional information you need when you're going for Windows Server installation, or a Windows Server 2019 or a 2022. Along with this, you need to have a clear idea about what is the name you are going to assign to this VM. So you need to have a VM name. That's important. Second one, it's been like you need to have details about how many disk you need it. So we'll try to understand how many disk by default it's been configured on in a uh, cloud scenario, how many disk you are attaching on in a on-premises scenario also. Then third thing, you need to have a IP address details, how the IP address has been assigned here. That is another point we are going to understand here. Then we'll try to understand about how the security has been configured for the server. Now, let me give you two scenarios here. First scenario, already you may be familiar. On-premises installation, right? How the on-premises installation is doing. Simple, you need to just load the operating system and you need to start the installation. Now, let's try to understand how the installation has been happening on in a cloud scenario. How Windows Server 2019 or a 2022 can be configured on in a cloud side. So that is the lab. Right now we are trying to do it here. So already we have a cloud account is being available here. Let me take you into a cloud account. I hope you can able to see the screen here. Let me take you into a screen. I hope you can able to see the secondary screen here. You may be able to see there is a cloud portal window here. Let me log out and log in here. Just give me a second. Give me a second. Let me verify my email ID. Just give me a second. It's asking for an OTP code. So right now you may be able to see you've been connected to the Microsoft Cloud here. So right now, if you can able to see here, uh, we have been connected to Microsoft Cloud here. We are trying to install Windows Server 2019 or 2022 operating system here. So for installation of 2022 on in a Microsoft Cloud, it's pretty much very simple here. I need to select a subscription here. Let me delete this VM here. Give me a second. Let me clear this couple of resource group which already been created here. So this may confusion for you. So let me clear this. Give me a second. I'm just clearing few components already available on the portal. So give me a second. We are getting few comments on the chat. Audio is not clear. Uh, is there any audio issue? Because my secondary laptop, I can hear the sound. Only to PM. So look like this is a connection with only to the individual then. So I request you to reconnect the server or reconnect the Teams. Yep, thank you for confirming. Right now we are clearing few components already available on in the portal. So let me, don't worry about these options, okay? So let me clear this first. So the next lab currently we are going to do, we are going to install a Windows Server 2019 operating system on in a Microsoft Cloud here. So I'm just clearing few servers and few resources already available on the portal. So that will help you to understand easily, because otherwise you may get confused here. So give me a second here. In case anyone is been seeing audio issue, requesting you to rejoin, just disconnect and rejoin. This may be issue with the Teams, because most of the members here, it's already confirmed their audio has been clear to them. So I don't think so it's an issue with my laptop side. It's been an issue maybe from your end, or it's on the team side. Now let me go here. Let me try to install a VM here. So I was asking, or at the time of installation, it's mandatory that we need to have few details to be available with you. So when you want to go for installation of Windows Server 2019 or a 2022 or any virtual machine, a couple of methods can be followed here. One option, in the left side of the portal, right now, whatever screen you are seeing on in your screen, this basically known as Microsoft Azure portal layout. So the moment when you connected here, whatever screen right now you're seeing on in the laptop, this is basically known as Microsoft Azure layout, Azure portal layout. So this is basically known as Azure portal layout. So this is the link, or this is the uh, GUI tool. With the help of this, you can able to configure all the services on in a cloud. It's not that only VM alone. Tomorrow, if you're working on a network or a database or a storage account or Active Directory, you'll be able to use the same tool for the management here. Now, when you want to go for an installation of a VM or a virtual machine, a couple of methods can be used here. First method, in the left side, you may be able to see a couple of options here. This is basically known as a resource panel, where you can able to see create a resource, home, dashboard, all services, all resources, resource group. So this basically that portal, or that left side, whatever option you're seeing, basically this is known as resource panel. Basically it's known as resource panel. So in the resource panel, you will be able to see one option called virtual machine here. So the moment when you click on the virtual machine, this will take you into a new screen here, where you can able to see virtual machines. And in this side, in case already if you have configured any virtual machine on the system, you will be able to see all the virtual machines here. Right now, we haven't configured any Windows Server 2019 or a 22 operating system here. That's the reason you're not able to see any operating system here. So here you are getting an option called create. So the moment when you click on the create button, a couple of options you will be getting here. So first option is we knowing as a Azure virtual machine option. So you need to click on this option. The moment when you click on this option, this will take you into another page, where mandatory that you need to provide few information. Wherever you are giving a star mark, you can able to see subscription is a mandatory information here. For example, like if you see here, subscription is a mandatory information. Resource group is a mandatory component. You have a virtual machine is been available. This is a mandatory information. Wherever you are seeing a star mark, you need to provide that information here. That's the reason, uh, when we had a discussion about a pre-planning, I was mentioning about a couple of details here. See, so that's the reason in the pre-planning stage, I was mentioning we need to have an account, we need to have a subscription details, we need to have a resource group, we need to have a region details, we need to have a VM name, we need to have a disk details also. So these are the few mandatory information. So these are the mandatory information we need to provide at the time of the installation here. Now let's go back to the Azure portal here. Now if you go back to the portal here, the first information you need to provide here, it's been called subscription. So you need to provide the how the billing is been going to do it on in the VM side. So we already understood in case if you are using a cloud, based on the resource or based on the um, consumption, we need to have a billing to be provided. So how the billing is being selected in the subscription option, you need to select this option here. Now, when you're going for an on-premises, you don't need to give all these details here. If you're going to do it on in a VMware workstation or a vSphere or in a on-premises physical server, directly you can able to start the installation. Now, when it is coming on in a Microsoft Azure side, in case if you're going for a hybrid mode, for example, like if you're planning to have a operating system is being installed on top of the cloud, that kind of a situation, you need to provide all this information here. Now, right now I'm selecting Windows Server 2019 here. I given my subscription is been, my ID is been given here. Resource group, I'm giving a resource group. So ensure that all my resources been kept inside a container here. I just given cloud batch. Virtual machine name, when you're going for here, you need to give a meaningful name here. Generally, if you're taking any organization, they used to go for a practical way of approach here. For example, like, let me share a screen here. Give me a second. So the moment when you go for a um, installation of a VM, in a typical installation in the planning stage, a couple of options generally we used to follow here. For example, the moment when you want to give a server name here, we used to give some format generally we used to follow. For example, like if you want to give a name, these are the few mandatory information we used to capture it here. For example, like if you want to give a server name for your identification, uh, the first few letter, you may give it as a development or a production, or you may be giving as a QA or a PORD or a DEV. So the engineers or the people who has been working on it, they will be able to identify what is the type of the server it is. For example, like someone has been seeing server name is like a dev VM1. So it's been easy for me to identify the server name has been VM1 and it's been part of a development one. So when you're planning for configuring a server on in a Microsoft Azure, rather than giving as it's a Muhammad or a Frederick or it's been a Suresh or a Robin or a Surak, give some meaningful name here. So which you'll be able to identify uh, where this VM is been belongs to. Is it part of a production, or is it part of a location, or is it part of an instance, or is it part of some production server? So this kind of information or this kind of elements or a factor can be considered. For example, like when I used to plan for any VM installation, the first few letter, first three letter, I used to give which infrastructure or which environment this server is been belongs to. For example, like if the server has been part of a production, the first three letter I'll give it as a POR or PORD, or four letter I'll give it as a prod. Now, second one, it's been like which region this has been hosting. So it's been easy for me to identify. For example, like if you're using UW, you can able to understand this has been hosted in a US West regions. Now, rest all it's been an option only. So if you're interested to give some further more details, like based on instance name or based on the product or based on the role, you will be able to give some additional information here. Now, if you go to the name here, I'm just giving a scenario here. Right now, if you're seeing a name called DEV USEC Web 01, can you comment it on in a chat? What are your understanding from this name here? Can you just comment it on in a chat? If you're seeing a production name, it's been like a DEV USC Web VM01. Uh, are you able to identify the server name here? You may be able to identify the first three letter it's been a infrastructure where this has been connected. So DEV stands for development, USC stands for US um, central location. This has been hosted, and this has been hosted with a web server, and the instant names is VM01. So it's been easy for you to identify this one. So this is the way you need to give, or at the time of a VM configuration, you need to ensure that this kind of a format or a standard format, you can able to use it in a cloud or in a client infrastructure, rather than giving your server name is a VM1 or a VM2 or a VM3. If you can able to give, or if you can able to follow some standard name, it's been easy for you to identify. So that's about the naming part. Now let's go back to the VM here. No need to spend too much on that. Now if you go back to the portal here, I have a VM name. I'm just giving as a development VM1. I'm just giving VM1 here. Now, second point you need to remember. Now, type of the region where you want to configure your region. That's been completely depends upon the user presence. For example, like if all your users are from US, then based on the location, geography, you need to connect the right location. For example, like if all my locations or users are from India, there is no point of keeping my server in a US or in a UK or in a other regions. For example, like for this case, all my users are connected from East to US data center or East to US region. So I'm selecting a region details here. Now, the important point you need to remember here, the pricing of the solution. So the moment when you're planning for a solution or a VM here, there is a OpEx model has been working, right? You may be able to see the size of the VM here, or you may be able to see the pricing tag here. You can able to see 5,000 rupees, 483 rupees I need to pay per month for this solution here. Now I'm just changing the operating system here. I'm selecting this as a Windows Server data center versions here. So data center have been selected. You can able to see the price tag is got changed here. So you can able to see there's a price tag is been changed here. It's been 9,000 rupees. Now the moment when you change the location again, for example, like this 9,000 rupees is for the East US region. Now in case if you're going for other region, for example, like if you're planning to host this is in a Australia, you can able to see the pricing is again got changed. So the pricing of the solution has been always depends upon which region or which data center you are hosting your solution here. So this is a very, very important point. So in case if you want to see another important point you need to remember, right now you selected some configuration here. For example, like if you select it here, you can able to see there is an option called see all sizes here. Now, the moment when you select it here, Microsoft has been again divided the configuration based on the usage. Now, rather than configuring high-end configuration on in a Microsoft cloud, based on the customer requirement, they will be able to select different models here. You can able to see here. Uh, in case if the customer is looking for a server where the customer is need high memory configuration, so that kind of a situation, they can go for E-series server here. You can able to see there is having a 16 server, 16 GB of memory is being provided. Now, in case if the customer is looking for uh, more on into CPU side, then you have a CPU dependent storage or is a configuration you can able to see it here. So depends upon the size, you can able to select it, or you can able to select the configuration here. So rather than configuring high-end configuration, if you go to see all sizes here, you will be able to select right configuration here. Now the point you need to remember here, give me a second. Yes, I agree with Joshua here. Joshua has posted one comment on the chat. The naming has been applicable for huge company. Yes, yes, Joshua, right? When you're going for a large or a productions, um, when Joshua is maybe creating a VM, you may be responsible for managing the server here. But after some time, if you maybe move to a different project, the person who is going to manage a cloud administrator role needs to understand where the server is being hosted. So that's the reason always used to go for a standard nomenclature or a naming format in a cloud here. Now I'm getting another question also here. Fabro has been, Mary has been asking another question. For example, like if the VM has been created with a configuration, is there any possibility to change the configuration? Yes, yes, we have an option has been available. For example, like I'll put in this way. Now you're working for an organization. At the time of a creation of an operating system, you have a you created a VM with a configuration of 2 GB. Now after some time, customer is saying like, no, I don't need a 2 GB, I need a 4 GB here. Now if it is in a normal on-premises scenario, how generally we used to add additional configuration? We used to shut down the server, we'll open the physical server, then in the ISI or a PCS load, we used to add additional memory or additional configuration here. Now when it is coming on in a cloud side, after some time the customer is saying, or it's been coming with some performance issue, and the server which has been hosted on in a cloud, you want to do some resource modification. Yes, you can able to go for a upgrade, or you have an option for downgrade also. So both the option made it's been possible on in a cloud. So you can have a option for make a configuration changes on in a cloud infrastructure. But the point you need to remember here, in case if you want to go for any modification on a server, you need to make sure that your server is in a shutdown situation. On a fly, you will not be able to make any configuration changes on in the server. So as per the ITL, in case if you are going to make any changes on the server, you need to follow the ITL standard, and you have an option for creating a something called change request. So in case if you're able to make any kind of a configuration changes, you need to have a valid change request is available in the service now or in a ticketing tool. Yes, Aditi, you're right. We have an option for taking a snapshot. That's basically coming on in a business continuity possible on the last day of the session. I'll be able to give you some insight on that. So Microsoft VM has been supporting three mode of business continuity. One is called a snapshot. Second one is called Azure backup. Third one is called ASR. So there's a three option has been available. So you have a snapshot has been available. You have option of Azure backup and something called ASR also. So in case if one region is being totally down, you can able to move to another region. From the region, you will be able to configure it here. Now I'll go to all these questions in the later stage. Let me take you into VM right now, and let's create a VM first here. Now we are inside Microsoft portal. Yes. Now I have created a you can able to see here. I got another question is here. Can we use a OVA here? No, OVA has been not supported, Aditya here. Here you have a template only, the option. OVA option has been, we cannot have a installation of a VM via OVA here. It's been not supported on Azure here. As on date, it's been not supported here. Now, OVA option has been not supported here. You have a template option has been, you need to use it here. Now, let's go back to the VM portal here. I given username and password. Right now, you may be able to see one place where you can able to give username and password. So this is the first user which you are going to create in the operating system. Right now, at the time of a creation of a virtual machine, you are getting a username and a password option here. So this is the username and password you are going to create inside the operating system. So that's very, very important point here. So this username and password is not created inside the cloud portal. So whatever username and password which you are going to give here, this is going to create inside the SAM file, which is been created inside the operating system here, right? So let me create a username here. I'm just giving a dummy name here. I'm just giving a dummy name here. Don't worry about the rest of the options. I'll take you to that at a later point. Let me give you a username and password. At the time of a creation, you may be able to see there is one option called select inbound port here. So just note down this option here. So select this option here. Don't worry about this one. After the creation, I'll help you on that. So right now you may be able to see there is one place where you can able to configure something called inbound port here. So I'll explain you what is the use of an inbound port here. So right now I have been selected. What is the option I've been selected here? I've been selected an option called RDP here. Something called RDP here. So you can able to see there is a four option you are able to see here. So with the help of a checkbox, I'll be able to select the port numbers here. So right now, what is the option I've been selected? I've been selected an option called RDP here. So don't worry about this option. Okay, I'll come to this point after creation of a VM here. So right now, what are the information I've been provided? I've been provided subscription details. I've been defined a logical container here. I given a standard virtualization name here. Then I've been selected my location is east to yes. Then availability option, I'll come to the later point. Don't worry about that. Now, here you have an option for using a existing license also. For example, the moment when you go for installation, there are two ways you can able to provide the licensing. You may be already aware that in an on-premises or a legacy model, after or at the time of a installation of the operating system, we used to go for a license activation, right? Even your laptop, after installation of a Windows 10 or a Windows 11, the first activity we have done, it's been like a activation of the operating system. Now, from where you will be getting this activation details? Similar way, when you're going for a cloud also, do you want to use your VM along with your license? That's one option. So technically, whatever amount you're seeing here, this amount is being included the license cost also. So in case if you already have a license is available with you, for example, like I'm giving a scenario, you are planning to migrate your on-premises into a cloud, already you have a license is been available with you, no need of purchasing another license here. So that kind of a situation, you will be able to save uh, cost in your infrastructure. In case if you already have a license is available, you can able to select this option. So this will help you to reduce almost 49% of licensing part. So after the installation, you need to use the licensing part or whatever key is being available. With the help of that, you need to activate your operating system here. Now, right now we have been selected one option called inbound port. After the installation, I'll show you that. So what is the use of that? So and here you can able to see a couple of options here. You have a disk, you have a networking, you have a management, monitoring, advanced, tag, and review and create. I'm not touching all this portion right now here. I'm just completing a validation here. I'm just creating a create option here. Let me create it here. So I got another question on in a chat. What is the purpose of selecting a RDP? So that basically, like after installation, we need to connect to the server, right? That's the reason we have been selected an option called RDP. I'll show you that. What is the reason behind that we've been used a RDP option here. Right now, I'm just selecting a create here. So the installation or a deployment is been started here. Now let's wait. Right now you can able to see the deployment is in a progress state here. Right now the deployment of the operating system is in progress. Let's wait. Meanwhile, if you have any questions related to the installation, requesting you to post through the chat option. Uh, Generally, the payment through the credit card or enterprise license one. Generally, we used to go for the CC one. Uh, in case if you want to go for Ubuntu, you may have to go for a SSH option. So you have an option of SSH is available. So to show you maybe notice at the time of the VM installation, bottom you may be seen an option called SSH. You need to enable a SSH option there. So in case if you want to go for Ubuntu, we need to go for a SSH or using a putty. We used to connect it here. Uh, Please explain the subscription in detail how to get it. Okay, I'll possible like after this last part of the session, I'll go through the subscription part. Okay, so I want to know about a resource group. Okay, no problem. I'll discuss about a resource group and subscription possible like after the installation of the Windows operating system here. So that two questions has been I'm moving to the bucket. I'll discuss that. I'll take you into that resource group and subscription. Yeah. What will happen if I select inbound during creating a? Is there any cyber attack? I'm coming to that point only, Suman. Okay. Now, uh, thank you, team. Your lot of question has been coming on in the chat. That's a good sign. Okay. So whatever questions you want to know, or if you have any doubt, please post it on the chat box. I'll try to answer it as much as possible. So in case if you have any questions or related on any general one, you can post it on the chat. I'll try to answer it all the questions during the sessions here. Or you can able to use the WhatsApp group also for asking all these questions. I'm available in the WhatsApp group app as well. Okay. Now, right now on the screen, you may be able to see you got a message here saying that, hey, admin, there is a deployment is been completed here. Now, on in the top side, you may be able to see there is a bell icon is been showing here, right? On the right side top, you may be able to see there is a bell icon. So this area is being basically known as activity log or a notification area. So in case if you are making any configuration changes, whether it's been a deletion or a creation or making any changes on in a cloud, by default, all your information is been captured inside a place called Azure Monitor. Right now, you can able to see there is some option is being given here saying that events in the activity log. So events in the activity log means in the operating system, you have an event viewer option is been available here, right? Similar way, when it is coming on in a cloud also, you have an option of capturing whatever events is been happening on in the cloud side. So this basically it's been configured or it's been with the help of a something called Azure Monitor. So I'll take you into that Azure Monitor possible on the last day of the session here. So right now we are discussing more about the installation part. Right now you can able to see there is a installation is been completed here. You are getting a message here with a green tick mark here saying that, hey admin, based on your configuration, installation has been completed on in the Microsoft cloud here. Now if I need to access this option, uh, in the notification message itself, you are able to see something called go to resource. You are able to see one option called go to resource. Or in case if you're planning to create another VM, for example, like if you want to plan for another VM, you can able to go for create another VM option also here. Or third option is been like you can click on the virtual machine here. If you're clicking on a virtual machine on which you are seeing on in the left side, this will be listing all the VM which have been created inside your account here. Right now you can able to see I've been created a VM here that's called a development VM, and it's been configured as in a virtual machine, and billing is been doing on in a so and so subscription, and this has been created inside a resource group called cloud batch, and this has been configured inside a place called east to west region, and it's been showing the public IP address how many disk is been currently it's been available here. Clear? Now installation has been completed here. So how generally the installation is been started? You can go to virtual machine. The moment when you click a create a virtual machine, from here you can able to select an operating system here. How image is been selected? In the bottom one, you may be able to see an option called image. From here you can able to select the respective ISO image or the operating system. Or the second option, there is something called marketplace available inside your cloud. Now in the marketplace, for example, like if you want to go for a Red Hat Linux operating system, so you can go to marketplace. In the marketplace you can able to select the operating system. For example, like you are looking for a Linux operating system here, so you can just type Linux and enter it here. So this will show you all the Linux operating system which is validated and which you can able to run on in a Microsoft cloud. You can able to see all the Linux operating system here. So for example, like if in case I need to go for a Linux operating system, I can select it here. Then I can go for an option called here. I have different version. I can able to see it here, like a Linux 8, 7.5 or a 7.6 or a 7.7. I can able to go for a create option here. So this will start the installation here. So this will take you into the installation page. Now, the point you need to remember here, Microsoft Cloud Infrastructure, it's supporting Windows operating system, as well as it's been supporting the Unix and Linux operating system also. It's not that Microsoft infrastructure has been supporting only on Windows. No, this has been supporting Linux operating system as well here. Now, let me pause it here for taking all your questions. You may be having a different questions here. We completed the installation here. We'll see how to connect to this operating system here. That is the next step we are trying to do it here. Now, before moving to the connection part, any general questions you have? If you're good, can you comment it on in a chat? If you're good, can you just put a single comment, good, all clear? So that will uh, help you to understand we both are on the same page. I hope you're able to follow me. Someone has been asking about a Mac operating system here. So yeah, so we have an option here. So you can just refer this link. This will give you Mac OS details that will help you to for getting the Mac OS. Can we use external ISO image from a storage device to make a VM? Should we buy from a marketplace? There is no option for ISO mounting here, Aditya. Uh, uh, ISO mounting has been generally it's been done on in a uh, VMware cases here, so there is no option for that. Little fast I'm going. Okay, Janeth, it's the reason it's been like we need to complete almost 10 modules. That's the reason I'm just going a bit fast. Okay. If you use a server OS, do we need a license key? No, Mark. That depends upon how you are selecting an operating system here. For example, like by default, when you create an operating system here, operating system has been installed along with the licensing key. Now, already if you have a license key has been available with you, and in case if you want to use that key for an activation, at the time of a creation, you need to select an option called hybrid. You maybe notice this option here at the time of a creation of a virtual machine. Bottom, you may be seeing something called licensing tab. So in the licensing tab, if you selected an option called hybrid mode, you can able to use the existing license already we are using here. Can I get a Azure Pass to try a VM only have a PayPal? Azure Pass, one option it is you can able to use it, but for this event we are not giving any Azure Pass vouchers here. Now, SSL certificate, Shabib, that's been coming on in the AZ 500 session. Possible the AZ 500 session will have a more discussion on the certificate and SSL part. We should buy a disk file or the disk, or you need to take a, you need to mount Aditya the image file here. Yes, Mia, we have created a group chat is been created. There's a WhatsApp group is been created. Uh, you can able to use that. Licensing is been based on the CPU and the configuration here. X, you're right. Uh, it's been basically depends upon the resource configurations here. Now, I think I have been answered uh, almost all questions here. Did I miss any questions? Then request you to repost it on the chat window. So I think I've been answered all the questions here. Okay, now let's go back on the installation part here. Right now we have a two scenario has been available in front of us here. Let me take you into the screen here. Okay, now two installation we have been completed right now here. One, it's been like you are installed a server in an on-premises one. On-premises one, it's been pretty much simple here. You are taken a the physical server, it's physically available inside in your on-premises. And top of that, you have installed Windows Server 2019 or 2022 operating system, and the installation has been completed here. Now, second case, you have a cloud infrastructure. In the cloud infrastructure, currently you have configured a server in the East to West data center. In the East to West data center, you use Microsoft physical server, Microsoft physical server you used. Microsoft is using backend technologies, VMware or a virtualization technology only. Basically, they are using Hyper-V. So you install an operating system here. You install an operating system on top of the server here. And right now you are sitting in Sri Lanka or India, and you need to connect to this server here. Now, in an on-premises scenario, in case I need to connect to this server, can you comment it on in a chat? What are the options been available in front of you? For example, like in an on-premises, you have installed Windows Server 2019. Now I need to take a RDP or I need to manage this server. What are the options been available in front of you? For example, like this on-premises server. This is a Dell server. Now in case I need to manage this server, how will you connect to this server? Can you comment it on in the chat? What are the options been available in front of you? One is a VPN, okay. RDP is an option, okay. Sujit will connect an RDP here. So Sujit is saying like he will use RDP, okay. Sujit, what is the uh, IP address you will be using here? Is it a private or a um, uh, public? It's been using a private IP address here, yes. So in case uh, all of us are already familiar, in case if I need to manage this server, I have a different option is been available here. For example, like if I'm a person sitting in a data room or a data center, I can take my laptop here. I can take my RJ45 cable, backside of the server. I can connect it here. Then directly I can able to connect it here, or I can take a VGA cable directly on into the graphics port. If I'm connecting, I can able to see this directly management here. Second option, I can be able to use a RDP protocol also, right? I can able to use a RDP protocol. In case if the server is been hosted in a Dell server, using a DRAC console, chassis console, right? I have a DRAC console is available. Using a DRAC console, as Kevin said, I can able to access the server here. In case if it is a HP server, we have an option of ILO is available. With the help of that, physically, or I can able to take a console and I can able to complete on the installation or setting of IP address or installation of DHCP or a DNS. Additional configuration can be done. So this all of us here is been familiar with this here. Now my question has been coming. Now in case if you have configured a Windows Server 2019 or a 22 in the East to West data center inside a cloud, I'm sitting in the India or a Sri Lanka. How do I connect it here? Can you comment it on in a chat? What are the options is been available in front of you? So we have a cloud account is needed. We are hearing a couple of terms here like SSH, VPN, web console, okay, public IP address, VPN, okay. So a few answers we've got here. Yes. So we're trying to understand because the moment when you go back to your office, you are going to manage a hybrid kind of a model in the customer place nowadays. One, it's been like you will be using an existing on-premises server. Second one, it's been like right now all the organization is been start migrating to a cloud here, and so you need to have a some model or a management tool is been available for managing that server here. So after the break, we'll try to understand how to connect to east to east data center from India or a Philippines or a Sri Lanka here. How do I connect to the server which has been hosted there? There is a couple of answers has been posted down in the chat. Something called a VPN or a bastion service or something called site to site public tunnel. We'll try to understand how do I connect into cloud side. On premises, I hope you are masters. Do I need to explain the on premises one? On premises one, do I need to explain? I hope already you're familiar with that. That's the reason I'm not spending on the time on that, because already you're familiar with that, how to collect that, right? Okay, great. Now let's take a 5 minutes break. After break, we'll try to understand how this can be able to manage in a cloud scenario here. So let's take short break, 5 minutes break, and come back. And the session is going to be another 2 hours. Okay, 2 hours we'll be having the session. So we'll try to complete management of on premises. We'll try to complete DHCP server also today. So let's take 5 minutes break and come back. I hope all are back. I hope we are back. If you're back, request you to confirm through the chat option. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. Now, before break, we have seen how installation of Windows Server 2019 or 2022 is been configured. Now, the next point here, how do I access the server here? Now, on an on-premises scenario, if you take the server here, physically I can able to connect to the server here. Then using a VGA cable, I can connect to the server, or I have an option of connecting to a RDP option is here. Now, when it is coming on in a cloud scenario here, I'm just giving a scenario here. You have a cloud network. In a cloud network, you hosted a Windows Server 2019 or a 2022. This has been hosted in East to West region. Now, as a user, I'm sitting in Sri Lanka or India or Bangladesh or Pakistan or any other country. Now, how do I connect to the server here? Now, one option is been like, what are the option is been available in front of us here? When it is coming on in a cloud, yes, one option is been like, we can ask your manager, hey, I need to go to US data center, I need to connect my server. Practically, practically this has been not possible here. Now, second option has been available for us here, something called RDP. Now I can able to use, there are different method you can able to use it here. The first method, you can take a remote desktop here, RDP. Now a couple of questions is getting here. How do I get taken RDP here? What is the IP address I need to use it here? Now when you're using a RDP, all of us are familiar with the term RDP here, remote desktop procedure protocol here. In a normally when you are using in a customer places, we used to use FQDN or we used to get a IP address also here. Now I'm getting a question. What is the IP address I need to use it here? So that's the first question you are getting here. So we'll try to understand one by one. So the first option you are going to use it here. It's called RDP. Second one, it's been something called gateway server or a gem server. Second method, in a customer place, you can able to see something called gem server or something called gateway server. In your organization, you may be using a term called gem server. For example, like in a COVID time, you may be doing a work from home. So that kind of a situation, you used to connect to a gem server or the server which has been configured on the perimeter of your network. From there, you are connecting to an internal network, something called gem server. So that's the second option. I'll take you into all this point, don't worry. Third option, something called bastion service. I'm discussing in case if you're configured your Windows Server 2019 or a 2022 on in a Microsoft cloud, how you can able to access that servers here. So one option is been like, as I said, you can able to use RDP. Second one is called the gem server. Third option is called bastion service. The fourth option, something called NATing, using a Azure firewall. You can able to configure something called NATing. Another option you can able to use called load balancer, using a load balancer. You can able to configure Azure load balancer. You can able to take a RDP session, or you can able to connect to the Microsoft operating system or the VM, which has been hosted on in a cloud side. So these are a few options which you are going to see in a customer places. So when you go back to your office, you may be able to uh, use RDP. You may be able to use jump server, bastion service, firewall, something called load balancer. So with the any of this option, you can able to connect to Microsoft VM, which has been hosted on in a cloud infrastructure. Now, don't worry about this. I'll discuss one by one here. So let's go for the first option called RDP here. Now, before moving that, any questions from anyone? I'm able to understand only English. So in case if you are posting any questions, request you to post it in a preferring to post it on in a English. So yeah, SSH you can able to use Kent. In case if you have configured it a Unix kind of scenario, prefer to go for a SSH kind of options here. Okay, now let's go for an option called RDP here. Currently, you can able to see you already configured a gem server here, or already configured, not gem server, already you configured a VM server here. Now, the moment you configured a VM server, let's go back to Microsoft portal here. Right now, I'll take you into all that point, how to work on a gem server, how to connect. Don't worry about that, okay? Right now, I'm just given an intro only. Don't think too much. I'll be discussing about how to work on a gem server. I'll take you all that point. Okay? Don't be confused right now. So right now, I just discussed, in case if you place your server on in a cloud infrastructure on a different regions, you may be connecting from X or Y location. For accessing the server, these are the options are available here. Don't worry about that, how to configure, how to connect. I'm taking to that. So don't worry about that. Right now, end of this session, you need to understand these are the few management tools or management options are available. With the help of that, you can able to connect to Microsoft Windows Server 2019 or a 2022. Is that point is been clear? How this has been configured, how to connect, how to take a server, that's been second questions. Don't worry about that part. Yes. What is the most secure connection? We'll be discussing one by one here. Don't worry about that. Okay. Now, right now you can able to see we are inside a cloud portal window here. Right now, if you take this window here, in the left side, I'm selecting an option called virtual machine, and I can able to see uh, it's giving a summary of whatever virtual machine currently it's been hosted here. And top, you may be able to see something called all resources here. So the moment when you select all resources, you may be able to see along with your VM. So the moment when you're planning for creation of a VM, we have given username and password, but you may be able to see here, along with your VM, there is a couple of other services also it's been created automatically here. You're getting a point here. So the moment when you create a VM on in a Microsoft Azure, along with your operating system, couple of other components also it's been created automatically. You can able to see here, along with your server operating system, along with your Windows Server 2019, along with your 2022, you can able to see there are a couple of services been available here. For example, when you go back to your on-premises scenario, let me give you two scenario here. One has been on-premises one. When you take a on-premises one, if you take a box that's called a physical server, in a physical server, you already have a NIC port is been available, right? That's called network interface card, or few people may be using a term called Ethernet port, right? What is the use of Ethernet port? Ethernet port, because the connection, entry and exit, or the network communication is been happening through the Ethernet port. So your physical server, whether it can be a Cisco or a Dell or a HP, it's mandatory that you need to have a NIC port, your RJ45 cable is been connected to a switch with the help of this Ethernet port here. I hope all are agreeing with this point, right? In an on-premises scenario. You're agreeing with this point? If yes, can you just comment it on in the chat? So typically you will have a NAC port is been available inside your physical server. Now, in a real time or in a complex scenario, you may be having multiple NAC card also, right? You may be having a multiple NAC card and you may be configured something called NAC teaming also for a redundancy purpose, right? If one network interface card is being down, you may be configuring a NAC teaming, right? So you may be having a multiple NAC teaming has been available. So one Ethernet port is being down, you will have a second NAC is been available for making a communication. So NAC can be configured in an OS level or it can be configured in the controller level also. So way it's been generally configured in a on-premises one. So that's the first point. Second point, you may be notice this server may be having a disk. So if you're taking on-premises scenario, you will have a multiple disk will be available here. So this disk, one disk generally we'll be using for operating system and additional disk you will be using for data disk for saving the customer data, customer logs or a database. You will have a data disk has been available. So that depends upon the complexity or depends upon the capacity the customer need. Either you may be having an inbuilt disk will be available or you may be connecting to a SAN storage, right? You may be heard about the different companies like EMC, Hitachi or a NetApp. With the help of this storage provider, you will be provisioning something called LUN. You will be provisioning LUN and you will be assigned to the on-premises server. Now, similar way, when it is coming on in a cloud also, the moment when you configure a VM, at the time of installation, you provided only few details here, right? What are the details you be provided? You provided what is the VM name, you provided what is the subscription, you provided the resource group. But you need to remember the moment when you install Windows Server 2019 or a 2022, by default, along with your operating system, there is some additional components also it's been created automatically. The moment when you install operating system on in a cloud, basically there is be two disks it's be created. One is called operating system disk. If it is a Windows Server case, the size will be 126 GB size. By default, there will be one disk will be allotted, basically known as C drive, right? Basically, something called a C drive is been created for your Windows 2019 or a 2022. By default, there is one disk will be created for your operating system. Second one, there will be a temporary disk will be created. Generally, the size will be 16 GB to 24 GB, depends upon what is the configuration you have been selected. So there will be additional disk, basically it's known as a D drive. D drive will be created automatically in your Windows Server 2019 or a 2022. What is the use of this disk? This basically using for saving something called as paging file. Have you heard about something called page file? You will have a page file will be created. That will be a temporary disk will be created. So you will have a page file will be created here. Now, in a Windows 2019 or a 2022 case, you will have uh, thin provision part, LVM part, managed and disk managed. There's a concept has been coming called managed or unmanaged concept is been coming, Aditya here. So possible in the storage session, we have to have a discussion on that. There's a different concept is been coming here called manage or unmanaged disk here. That's the kind of a concept we're using here. So coming on into the this scenario here, Now, if you take a server here, by default, your operating system is been coming 127 GB or 126. In the disk management, you will be able to see 126 GB. Technically, it's 120 GB is been applied. If it is a Linux operating system, the size is going to be, instead of 127 GB, size is going to be 30 GB. Now, two disk is by default it's been configured here. Now, one point you need to remember here, uh, in Windows Server 2019 or a 2022, you are getting an additional disk for a temporary disk in the system. Now, as I said, this is basically using for a primary RAM or a virtual memory. We are not recommended to save any data on the D drive here. So when you want to save customer data or a customer information, it's been not recommended to save any data on the operating system or a temporary disk here. In case if you want to configure additional disk, you need to ensure that additional data disk is being added here. In case if you want to configure customer data on in a separate one, you need to ensure that additional data disk is being configured. The reason is like, for example, like if you configured any file inside a temporary disk, for example, like I've been saved a file called file1. The moment when you restart your operating system, whatever content is been available inside a temporary disk, that will be cleared, wiped out. Whatever data is been available on the temporary disk, whatever content is been available on the temporary disk, that will be wiped out. And it has been not recommended to save any data inside your operating system also. So in a customer place or in your project or in your account, if you're planning to go for Windows Server 2019 or a 2022, and the customer has been looking for any data save or a data drive or additional data space, always we need to ensure that you are configuring additional data disk. Additional data disk is being needed. Inside that only you are eligible or you can able to save your customer data. You can save data inside an operating disk or a temporary disk also. But the problem here it's been like you have a risk element is been available. The reason it's like the moment when you restart your computer, whatever content is been available in the temporary disk, that will be wiped out. So it's been not recommended to save any information inside a temporary disk also. Now that's about the disk part. So end of this session, you need to understand by default, if you're configured a Windows operating system 2019 or a 2022, by default, two disks is been created, one for your operating system, one for your temporary disk. And in case the customer need additional disk, you need to configure additional data disk also. Practically, I will show you that. That's one part. So if you go back to the portal here, now if you go back to the portal, you may be able to see here. There is a disk is been created here. See, there is a disk is been created here. You can able to see there is a disk is been created for you. See, along with your operating system, there is a disk is been attached for your operating system here. That's the first point. Now, second point, it's been like, let me take you into whiteboard here. Give me a second. Now, next point, it's about the network side. Now, if you go back to the server here, now when you're going to configure on a on-premises one, how the IP address is been assigned in an on-premises scenario, we used to go to ncpa.cpl. Then inside that, we used to configure a IP address, right? So how generally we used to assign an IP address here. We used to go to the something called ncpa.cpl. You will get a network connection and you used to assign an IP address to NIC port here. Now, when it is coming on in a cloud also, by default, you will have two IP addresses been assigned for your cloud infrastructure. Right now we understood the moment when you install a server on a cloud, there is a two disk it's been already created here, right? One it's been like for operating system, one it's been for a temporary disk. Now, similar way, there will be two address, IP address will be assigned to your server operating system here. One is being knowing as a private IP address. Second one is being knowing as a public IP address. Now, the moment when you configure or a host a server operating system on in a cloud Microsoft Azure, by default, your operating system will be getting two address, IP address. One is called a private IP address and second one is called a public IP address here. Any idea what is the difference between private IP and public IP address? Can you comment it on in the chat? What is the difference between public IP address and private IP address? Can you comment it on in the chat? One is called internal and second one is been using for external. Yes. So if you take a Microsoft site or a IP address, in your college days, you may be already studied IP address has been classified as A, B, C, D, E, right? These are the few classification is being done by the IAN here. Now, if you take a class A IP address here or a class B, the IP address has been starting from 1.0.02, 126 dot or 127 generally we are seeing. It's called 255 dot 255 dot 255 is a class A IP address, and class B is generally been coming 128.0.0.2, 191.255 dot series, and class C has been starting from 192 dot series 0.02, 223.255.255. Now class D stands start for 224.0.0.2, 239.255.255.255, and class E is been start for 240.0.2, 0.2, 254.255.255. So these are the few classification already we have done in a networking side. Now, when you consider a network side, uh, even though we have a classification is been done from class A to class D, you will not be in a position to use all these IP address on in a internet. So generally Microsoft is done, not Microsoft, there's an organization is called IANA. You maybe heard about something called IANA. So that's basically they are taking care of IP address management. That's called Internet as a Number Authorities. So they are responsible for managing the IP address here. So they have been defined. Your IP address is starting from 0 and ending in a 255. IANA has been clearly defined. You will not be able to use all IP address on in a internet here. So they've been selected. Internally, whatever IP address, one set of IP address you can use internally, you don't need to pay anything for that. Whatever IP address which you can able to use an internet, that right term is called the IP address which you can able to route in internet. It's called a routable IP address. The term is called a routable IP address, that basically knowing as a public IP address. The IP address which you can able to use in internet, that's called a routable IP address. So that basically known as a public IP address. Now, even though the IP address is starting from 0 to 9, the classification is done as a two-way. One is called a private IP address and second one is called a public IP address here. Private IP address means the IP address which you can able to use internally. Generally, if you're taking private, the IP address which has been starting from 10.0.0 to 10.255.255 255.255. And if it is coming on a class B, it has been 172.16.0.02, 172.31.255.255, something called class C. It's been coming 192.168.0.0.2, 192.168.255. Clear? So the IP address which you can able to use internally, that basically known as a private IP address here. Now the IP address which you can use in internet, rest all IP address which you can able to use in internet here. Yes. Now let's do a simple example here. Right now all of us are using a access point, right? Right now you've been connected a laptop here. Can you do one thing? Can you go to command prompt? Can you go to command prompt and type ipconfig? Go to command prompt and type a command called ipconfig. Ipconfig and type the IP address on the chat window. What is the IP address you are getting here? Can you comment it on the chat window? Go to command prompt and type ipconfig. Eric is getting 192.168.55.10. Okay. Yes. All of us can just comment your IP address on the chat. You may be able to see there are some pattern, right? Almost everyone it's been like similar IP address you are getting, right? Either it's been 172 series or you may be able to see it's been 192 series, right? See, class C, right? 10 or 192 series, right? Exactly, great. Now, how this IP address has been assigned here? The reason it's been like, you may be connecting in your home, right? You may be in your home, you may be having a something called Wi-Fi access point is been available, right? Now, Wi-Fi access point is giving or you're using for connecting your laptop or a device. Your mobile may be connected to the access point. Your laptop is being connected. In your home, you have a partner or someone friends is being available. They also connected to access point. But this access point got only one address for connecting to internet. So this will have a only public IP address. So this Wi-Fi access point internally for a communication distributing an IP address from the private IP address range. You have a 172 or a 192 or you have a 10 dot series. So this access point has been acting as a DHCP server and internally you're giving. So if you want the communication, if they want to go outside, this access point got a public IP address. So that got a public IP address. With the help of that, it's going outside. Yes, from a DHCP port. So your access point has been working as a DHCP address. As a DHCP, not address, DHCP server. Now, coming on into the cloud scenario, by default, if you take Microsoft VM, which you've been hosted on in a Microsoft cloud, this got two address. One is called a private IP address, and second one is called a public IP address. This point has been clear. Now, private IP address, how this has been assigned in a cloud, something called as VNet. So the private IP address generally it's been assigned from a place called VNet. So the moment when you install a VM on in a Microsoft site, the private IP address has been assigned from a place called VNet. So VNet will be assigned a private IP address for your Windows Server 2019 or a 2022. Public IP address will be assigned by cloud service provider. You don't need to configure a public IP address here. By default, this has been assigned by the cloud service provider here. So cloud service provider will configure or the cloud service provider will configure the cloud IP address. The public IP address will be configured by the cloud service provider here. So by default, cloud service provider will give you that. Now the point you need to remember, whatever public IP address your Windows Server 2019 or 2022 has been assigned, there is a cost is involved. Public IP address is mean not free. there is a charge we need to pay. There is a paid service. It's been a paid. You need to pay the amount to Microsoft. So whatever public IP address currently you're using, you have a public IP address has been assigned here. Now the point here, it's been like we were discussing about how to connect to Microsoft Windows 2019 or a 2022. Now the point here, it's been like in case if you hosted Windows Server 2019 or a 2022, if you are sitting in India or a Sri Lanka or any other country, if I need to connect to this server, if you want to take a RDP, I need to have a public IP address. The reason is been like, why I need a public IP address here? There are two scenarios we have. Okay, one is been like, I have a server which has been configured in the East US region. I have a VM, it's been configured with Windows Server 2022 or a 2019. Now I'm sitting here. I need to connect to this server. How the connection is been going? The connection is been going through internet. How the connection is been going? The connection is been going through the internet. Through the internet, the connection is being going to the Microsoft data center. Right now, we already understood. In case if I need to connect to internet, I need to have some IP address which is been routable in internet. Private IP address is been not routable in internet. So in case if I need to use a RDP here, I need to have a public IP address required. I need to have a public IP address is required. With the help of a public IP address only, I'll be able to connect to the internet here. That's the first scenario. But there are some situation you may be having a question here. Is there any possibility to connect RDP using a private IP address? Yes, we have an option is been available. In case in your organization, if there is a VPN is being configured, in case in your organization, if the organization is being configured something called virtual private network, you can take RDP using a private IP address also. So end of this session, you need to understand by default your VM is being configured with a two address. One is a public IP address. Second one is a private IP address. By default, you will not have any option for taking a RDP to Windows Server 2019 or a 2022 with the help of a private IP address. The reason it's been like a private IP address is a not a routable IP address in the internet. But in case if there is a VPN has been available in your organization, with the help of a VPN, you will be able to use it a private network. In case the VPN is been not available, only solution we have it's been available here. It's called a public IP address. Only with the help of a public IP address only, you will be able to connect it here. I'm pausing here for taking a question. This may be a confusing one. So in case if you have any question, request you to post the question on the chat window. If you're good, please put it a single comment, good, and we are clear. Let's have a discussion or a debate. Yeah, Rafid, yes, whatever IP address has been generally configured, Rafid, there are two ways it's been assigned here. Public IP address can be configured in a two-way here. One is called a dynamic method. Second is called a static also. There are two way Rafid you can able to configure. One is called a public dynamic address. So dynamic address means that the moment the VM is being rebooted, public IP address will be changed. So that at the time of a creation of a public IP address, you can able to select it here. Dynamic option also available. You have option of configuring static also. Both option is been available here. Yeah. Nilandra is asking another question, how VPN can be used here. Nilandra, in Microsoft Azure, VPN has been configured in a three mode. One is known as a P2S, something called S2S, something called Azure Express Route. Once this has been configured in your organization, in a normally how generally you are taking RDP, the same method can be configured here. The same way the like you can get go to MSTSC and you can able to connect to the RDP portal here. So in the backend, if you're using a point to site, You may be remembering in your COVID time, you may be using some VPN client software, right? In case if you want to connect to your office, we have used something called VPN client software, right? VPN client software, you're connecting, it is asking for RSA token and used to connect your office network. Once the connection or a tunnel or a channel is been established, you can able to use that normal MSC TSC concept. You can just take a RDP, you can able to use it here. In my organization, one hybrid solution. Yep. So, Suman, in your organization, if you're using a VPN, basically they'll be using something called as S2S or something called Azure Express Route. Suman, in your organization, they will have something called S2S or Azure Express Route that will be configured on in the backend. So once the VPN is been available, how generally you are using your RDP, the same method you can able to use it here. You can use how generally you're taking RDP. You will go to MSTSC and you will type the private IP address of the server, right? Once the S2S or express route is been available, you can type MSTSC and type the IP address of a private IP address. That's all. Yeah, express route is a private connection, Sujit. Sorry, Shabi, you're right. Express route means that the connection or the channel will go from a directly from your office into Microsoft Cloud through a dedicated channel, not to the internet. So Cisco VPN kind of option, yes. Uh, VPN is available with only with Windows Server. No, no, Bhuvan. VPN concept is a general concept here. That's a cloud concept here. It's not only with a Windows Server. Any resource which you've been hosted on in a cloud, you'll be able to use a VPN here. In a Windows operating system, if you want, you can able to configure VPN. That's a different topic. There's something called remote and routing service is been available on the Windows Server 2019 or 2022. With the help of that, you can able to configure VPN here. But whatever point to site or S2S or Azure Express route I've been explained, that's been applicable for all the resource who's been hosting on in a cloud infrastructure. That's not only for a Windows Server. That's been applicable for all the resources been available on in the cloud side. Can I use VPN and access using RDP? Yes. In case if there is a VPN is been available, with the help of RDP, you can able to, with the help of a public IP address, you will be able to connect to the server here. Are we good here? Super. So let's go to the connection part here. Now let's try to understand uh, VM here. Now I have a server has been ready here. VPN is good. Okay. Now let's go back to the portal here. Sorry guys, I was talking on mute. Numan, I'll come to that point. Which one is the preferred one and why we need that? I'll come to that point. Okay. Now let's try to connect to this VM here. Then we'll go for which one is the right method here. Now, if you go to the VM here, you may be able to see there is a development server is been costed here. And if you go right side, you may be able to see the server is being configured with a public IP address also here. Now, if you click on this server here, in the properties, right now you're getting an overview tab here. This will give you all the information here. Now, you may be able to see something called public IP address here. So you can able to connect it, or you will be getting a public IP address details from here. Or if you come down, you may be able to see there is something called a private IP address also. You have an option called private IP address also here. Now, right now the server is being hosted inside a place called East US data center here. So we have been installed Windows Server 2019 operating system here. You can able to see here, we have been connected Windows Server 2019 data center here. Now, in case if I need to connect to this server, in the option in the top, you may be able to see something called connect option here. Similar like DRAC console or ILO. Uh, you may be remembering a DRAC or a console here. You may be able to configure it here, RDP or a SSH option here. For example, like if I'm taking RDP here, this will be downloaded or this will be taking to a page here where you can able to see two options here. It's been asking public IP address and a private IP address here. Now, in case if I'm using a private IP address, I am getting a two option here. It's asking, hey admin, how do you want to connect to this server here? So it's asking like, how do you want to connect the RDP port here? So if I'm giving a private IP address, this will be downloaded a pre-configured file. Pre-configured file means this will be having all the information manually. You don't need to type anything here. You can able to see here. See, right now if I'm open this file, this is saying that, hey admin, I understood like you want to connect to 10.0.0.4. It means I have a server is been available here. I have a physical server is been available here. This physical server got a virtual network interface card. Here I don't have any physical network interface card here. Okay, so by default, your server will have a virtual network interface card. This has been assigned with a private IP address 10.0.4. The same card has been assigned with a public IP address 20.x.x. Now I am a user using an internet. I'm trying to connect to the server. The moment if I'm giving 10.0.0.4, what will happen? Can you comment it one in the chat? Are we able to connect it? Now, the moment if I take MSTSC, right now you are able to see the RDP window, right? There I given 10.0.0.4. If I try to connect to the server, can we access the server? Can you comment it on the chat? If no, what is the reason behind that? So we are getting an answer is no. What is the reason behind that? The reason it's behind that, whatever IP address 10.0.0.4 is a private IP address. So using that, I'll be able to communicate only internally. It's a non-routable IP address. This IP address we cannot use in internet. So how do I connect now here? In case if I need to take a RDP to my server, I need to have a public IP address. I need to have a public IP address. Yes, natting, in case if the natting has been configured, you can able to use it here. But right now we don't have any natting has been configured. In case of the natting has been available, I agree with your point here. But right now I don't have any natting has been available. So I have only option. I need to depend on the public IP address. Clear? Now, in case if I need to connect it here, the moment if you try to connect it using a private IP address, you will be getting an error message here. See here, right now, if I'm trying to connect it 10.0.0.4, at the moment, if I try to give connect, you can able to see this has been keep on trying, but finally this will be ended with a message saying that, hey admin, I'm not able to locate this server here. See, he's been trying to connect it here, but it's not able to locate here. So because the private IP address is not routable here, see, it's been ended with a message saying that, sorry admin, I am not able to access this server here. So you got a error message here. Now, in case if I need to access this server here, I need to have a public IP address. So I'm just downloading this public IP address here. So with the help of that, I'm connecting. So let's wait. So I have a public IP address here. So let me connect it. Let me give the username and password. You will be getting a message here saying that it's been connected now. Yes, right now you can able to see this has been connecting to a server called dev VM here, and you can able to connect to this server here. See, you can able to see the connection here. So how this is being connected now? This is being connected with the help of a public IP address here. Right now you can able to see. Right now the server is been able to connect. How this is been connected now? This has been connected with the help of a public IP address here. Now this is the one commonly used method here. Right now you can able to see the server is been connected here using a public IP address. Now using a bastion service or using a gem server, I'll explain it in the next point here. So don't worry about that. Right now you can able to see the moment when you configured a or when you connected a server here, there will be a tool by default it's been loaded that basically known as server manager. So when it is coming on in an operating system, you may be able to see there is a tool that's been automatically is been configured. That's called a server manager. So server manager is a tool. Basically, it's been using for configuring a roles and features here. Roles and features means that if you take a Windows Server operating system, you may be already aware that the server is got of n number of services. You may be heard about features like a DHCP, DNS, Active Directory, file server, or a print server, can be configured as a routing and remote access. By default, if you take this server, it's not configured with any services here. So anything related to the server manager can be managed with the help of a tool called server manager. For example, right now you've been configured this server here. Now, if you want to make this server as a web server, or if you want to configure the server as a DNS server, or if you want to configure this server as a DHCP server, all that installation, generally it's been configured with the help of a tool called server manager. By default, when the moment when you log in, automatically you can able to see this tool is been coming. Automatically you can able to see this console has been coming up. In case if you're not seeing here, in the start menu, if you click on the start menu, you can able to see there is an option called server manager. In the start menu, you may be able to see, um, you can able to see the server manager option is been coming here, something called server manager here. So in case if you're not seeing this one, you can go to start menu. From there, you can able to create it. Yes, Arnel, I'll be taking into DNS, I'll be taking into DHCP and Active Directory and file server and the disk management also. The next portion is the configuration of the services here. So I'll be taking to that point. Possible tomorrow we'll be taking to the DNS concept here. Right now, if you can able to see here, this is basically known as role-based installation. The technical term, or basically in Windows, it's called as role-based installation. What is the meaning of role-based installation? Uh, Based on the customer requirements, we can able to configure additional services here. So the moment if you click it here, I can able to use this server for a remote installation, or the same server also I can able to manage it here. For example, like if I need to manage a remote disk or remote server, even I can able to manage from the different server also from here. Now, the moment if I'm selecting the same server here, it's giving a almost 30 plus services here. You can able to see the services like a active directory domain services, active directory right management service, DNS, DHCP. Like this, you can able to see many services is been configured here. By default, this has been not enabled because you can able to see in case if I need to configure some services, I need to go to server manager. From here, I need to select it here. Then it will allow you to install that. So this is basically known as role-based installation. So the reason it's been like uh, this all it's been given a flexibility to a customer. Now customer can decide whether you need a DHCP or a DNS or Active Directory to be configured on this server based on the customer server capacity, based on the location this has been located. You can able to configure role-based installation. So based on the customer requirement, we can able to go for the role-based installations here. So for example, like in case if I need to go for a particular service, web server, I need to select the web server. Then if you go to features, you may be able to see almost 35 plus features also it's been available here. Now, based on what is the feature the customer has been looking, you can able to select it here and you can able to install here. So this is basically known as a technical term called role-based installation, rather than installing all services on in the same server and making the server is in a kind of in a uh, kind of in a hung state. Based on the configuration or based on the customer requirement, user will be able to, yes, is maybe right term is called like a messy kind of thing. You can able to go for the based on the customer requirement, you will be able to configure it here. Now that's the way the role-based installation is been working here. So we'll try to install a couple of services here. Now before moving to that server manager here, if you go to the disk mode, right now already we have been discussed like in a Windows case, the moment if you're configuring a Windows Server 2019 or a 2022, in a cloud side, if you're configuring a VM, by default, you'll be able to see there are two disks is being configured automatically here. You can able to see if you take a OS here, you have an option of C drive and you have option of D drive. By default, these two drive is been configured automatically here. So the operating system C drive is been holding all the operating system related files. So the point you need to remember when you are in a customer places, it's been not recommended to save any data inside the C drive here. So you don't have any option of configuring um, or it's been not recommended to keep any customer data inside the C drive here. We can able to keep it. Okay, that's not an issue. For example, like if you want to create a folder here, you can able to create it, but this is been not recommended because there's a risk is involved. For example, like even that OS drive is got crashed. You will not have any kind of a availability has been available. So it's been not recommended to save any data inside C drive and a D drive also. So we'll try to see how to add additional disk and we'll try to see how additional network interface can be added into your operating system. So after a break, we'll take a 10 minutes break and we'll come back. Then after a break, we'll try to understand different way of connecting a Windows server here. We'll try to see how to add additional um, servers here. We'll try to see how additional NAC or additional disk can be configured here. Yes, we'll be providing you all the course material and recordings and material here. So Suman is asking what is the purpose of these two disk here. So one disk is generally Suman is been using for operating system drive here. You can able to see all your operating system file is been saved inside here. Now temporary storage is been using for a kind of a page file. It's a virtual RAM or a primary memory. So that's for that your secondary disk is been used here. So we'll try to see after 10 minutes break, we'll try to see how additional data disk can be added here and how you can able to access this server using a different methods here. And we'll try to see how to configure a DHCP server also. And someone has been asked, is there any forest concept is being covered? Yes, we'll be covering on in the day 4, how to configure Active Directory, how to create a user account, how user account is been configured inside a on-premises Active Directory. We'll try to see how this has been configured on in a Azure cloud. We'll try to see how this can be integrated also. That's something called AD Connect. That portion also will be covered here. So far, We have discussed about how to connect. We have discussed about the use of a server manager here. In case if you're good, can you put in a single comment on the chat? Or in case if you have any question, let's have a debate or a discussion. Super. So let's take a 10 minutes break now, almost 2 hours now. It's been a long time. So let's take a 10 minutes break and let's have a small coffee break and come back. Let's have a 10 minutes break. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So possible after break, after Fatin, I'll discuss what is the use of these two disks. Okay. So let's take a break and come back. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I know you guys are taking a break, and I just want to say that if you're loving what the how the training or if you find it relevant value for being in the time, please share the story or a story or a post on your Facebook and tag us there. I have posted the link to our Facebook page and just tag us and say something about the training going on or something like that. Just share about it so that more people will know about us to they can also join the session. So if you find it value, there is a value for the training or the value for what we are doing. So I can see 500 people here. If you share just one single post about uh, the training, that will be really helpful. I hope you guys will be doing it, and thank you so much.
I hope we are back. Okay, so let's go back to the module here. So let's try to understand disk management here. So right now we have been seen how to connect to a server here. So there is a couple of options been practiced here. One, it's been like we have a server available here. Server is been configured with a public IP address, and it's been configured with a private IP address also. Right now, I've been connected using a option of RDP protocol here. So next session, I'll be discussing about two portion here. How the connectivity to Windows Server 2019 or a 2016 made in a hybrid scenario, and we'll try to understand about a disk management also here. Now, before moving on into the disk management, uh, right now we have seen the connectivity part here. How the connectivity has been made. It's been made with the help of a RDP here. Now, a couple of points you need to remember here. Now, if you take the VM1, right now we've been configured a VM1 here. VM1, you may be observed, you got a public IP address here, and you got a private IP address also. Now, let me try to install another computer here. Let's me install another computer called VM2. Let me install another computer here in a different regions here. For example, like let me install this is in a North US data center. Let me install another VM here. Let me install another VM. For example, like it's asking for the OTP details. Uh, Let me give the OTP details here, like 823 32220. I just entered the details here. I'm trying to install a second VM here. Already you can able to see I already have a VM1 is in place. You can able to see already one VM1 is in place. You can able to see there is a second VM. I'm going to configure it here. So let me create a VM1. I'm just creating a second VM. Let's create it on in a Windows Server 2016. Same resource group has been selected. I'm just given VM2. I selected it's Windows Server 2022 here. I given username and password. Just everyone review and created here. Look like there is a password mismatch happened here. So let me retype the password. Yes, so additional VM we are configuring. You can able to see there is a VM has been connected here. So I'm just creating second VM here, configuring with Windows Server 2022 here. Let's wait. Right now you can able to see the deployment is in progress here. So right now you can able to see the installation is in a progress state here. So point you need to remember here, the moment when you configure any VM on in a Microsoft cloud, by default, there is a two IP addresses been automatically it's been assigned here. You can able to observe the same thing here. Currently, you can able to see on your screen. Uh, the second VM creation also it's been almost finalized here. In the notification area, you are able to see here. This deployment is been completed. You can able to see this VM has been created in the VM here. You can able to see second VM has been created here. Now, if you go back to the virtual machine here, you may be able to see there is a two VM has been created here. The first VM you can able to see is like a development VM, and second one it's been like you can able to see it's been configured with the VM2 also. Now, if you go to the right side, you may be able to see by default there is a public IP address has been assigned to both the operating system here. You have Windows Server 2019 and 2022 here. Both it's been assigned with the public IP address. Now, if you go to the properties of specific VM, for example, like if you go to VM2, you may be able to see the same public IP address details you may be able to pull out from here. Or if you come down, you may be able to see there is another IP address also it's been assigned to the VM here. Now, the point you need to remember here, when you take any VM or any resource on in a Microsoft portal, by default, this has been configured with a public IP address, and this has been configured with a private IP address also. But uh, what is about the cost is involved here? So whatever public IP address you've been assigned here, there is a charge has been assigned for that. Whatever public IP address your operating system is getting here, Microsoft is been charging for each public IP address here. Now, if you go to public IP address Azure price tab, you may be able to see depends upon what is the type of the public IP address if you're use here, you need to pay the money to cloud service provider here. You can able to see depends upon what is the mode of public IP address you are configuring. Based on that per hour, you have to pay the money to the cloud service provider here. Now, the private IP address which you are going to use it here, it's been completely free. You don't need to pay anything for that. So whatever public IP address you are uh, getting by default using in a cloud, you don't need to pay anything for that. By default, whatever public IP address you are private IP address you are getting, it's been completely free here. Now, I'm just giving a scenario here. Let's go back to the whiteboard. Now, you're working for an organization. There you have a 10,000 VMs you have been configured. I'm just giving a scenario. You are working for an organization. There you have been configured 10,000 VMs. Each VM is been configured with a public IP address. You have a VM2, VM1, VM3, VM4. Like this way, you have a 10,000 VM is been available here. So what is the challenge you're going to face it here in this kind of a scenario? Can you comment it on in the chat? I'm just giving a scenario. You're working for a project. There you have a 1,000 VM is been available, and you have a 10,000 public IP address has been assigned to each VM here. What are the concerns or what are the challenge you are observing here as a cloud administrator? Can you comment it on the chat? Cost is one part, okay? So there are 2 points you may be able to observe here. One is been like a cost, because if you have a 10,000 public IP address you're assigning, you need to pay this amount to the cloud service provider. Second one, if you take all this infrastructure here, all this VM you are exposing to internet. For example, like this is your payslip server. The completely the infrastructure you are exposing to internet. So there is a chance of security compromise, right? There is a chance of your security or IP, or it's been like a infrastructure compromise chances are there. So that's the reason, if you take a customer places, you will be using a concept of using an additional servers. Now we understood there is a cost is involved. Second one, it's been like security has been compromised. Now we have a problem here. I'm just giving a scenario here. The moment when you're configuring a Windows Server or a 2022, there are two ways you can able to configure here. I have a VM is been available. So the moment I'm configuring a VM, I can able to define this server need only private IP address here. I don't need public IP address here. So I'm configuring a VM here. For example, like VM3 I'm configuring. So at the time of the installation itself, I'm configuring or I'm saying to Microsoft, hey Microsoft, I'm planning to install VM3 with an operating system Windows Server 2022. You don't need to configure a public IP address. I don't need a public IP address. Now, let's see how this will be configured here. Now, the moment when you planning to create a VM here, let me take you into the portal. If you go back to the portal here, I hope you can able to see a portal here, right? Right now, if you go to a virtual machine here, the moment when you go to create a machine here, I'm just giving VM name has been VM3 here. So there are some situation you're working for a project and the customer is saying like, I don't need any additional VM. How will you project that? So if you go to here, uh, when you try to create a VM, in the top, you may be able to see a couple of options, right? You may be able to see an option like a basic, you will be able to see option like a disk or a networking. On the networking tab, you may be able to see something called as public IP address. You may be able to see an option called uh, public IP address here. So in the public IP address option, you will be getting something called none. The moment when you select an option called none, this is not going to assign any public IP address to your VM. So we are discussing about a cost. We are discussing about a security aspects. We understood if all the VM is been configured with a public IP address, there is a cost issue has been coming. Second one, it's been like you have a option or you have a issue of security also here. Now, yes, after creation of this one, how to cancel, I'll come to that point. I'll come to that point. Don't worry. Right now, I'm just selecting an option at the time of a creation here. So I'm just creating a VM3 at the time of a creation. I've been selected. I don't need a public IP address here. Let's see practically what is happening on in the VM level. Let's validation has been completed here. Let's create a VM. Let's wait for that. Yes, that's another interesting question here. I'm coming to that point. How will you connect to that VM in that scenario? So that's the question we are planning to discuss it here. So coming to that point only, how will you connect to that VM? Right now you can able to see the deployment is in progress here. Right now you can able to see here your VM3 has been configured here. Now if you go to VM options here, virtual machine options, you can able to see only VM3 is being configured without a public IP address here. See, only the VM3 is being configured without a public IP address here. So the moment it's been like you've been configured a server here, you defined at the time of the creation itself, hey Microsoft, I don't need any additional public IP address here. Now I'm getting a second question. Mr. Suman was asking this. It's like, for example, like I already created a VM with a public IP address. You may be able to see on in the portal. You have a two public IP address or a two VM. It's been configured with a public IP address here. So how will you remove that? So the right terminology in a cloud, it's called disassociation. So the moment I'm just giving a scenario here. For example, right now you maybe already noticed you have a VM3 has been configured without a public IP address here. So you may be able to see VM3 has been configured only with a private IP address. There is no public IP address here. This has been clear to everyone. If yes, can you comment it on the chat? This has been clear to everyone. Super. Now we have a two VM has been available here. One is VM1 and VM2. This already been created and already this server is been got public IP address and this got a private IP address also. Now, in case if you want to remove this public IP address from here, that procedure is generally known as something called disassociation. So already an IP address has been associated with your operating system, now associated with your VM. So if you want to remove that, that basically knowing as disassociation. How will you do that? Now, in case if you want to do that, you need to go to cloud portal. Now let's take connect to the cloud portal here. Let me look like browser is got hanged here. Just give me a second. I'm not able to. I'm not able to move this cursor. Just give me a second. Look like a browser is got hanged here. Mouse is me not moving. Give me a second. System hanged. So let's wait 2 minutes. In case if I'm making any issues, that will make a blow screen. So let's wait 1 or 2 minutes. I may have to reconnect the session. Okay. So let me reconnect the session. System rebooting server. Give me 2 minutes. Hello, hello. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, team. It's like in between we got unexpected technical issue. Uh, a laptop got a blue screen and system is been continuously rebooting. Yeah. So let's go back to the session. We were discussing about a concept of IP address adding and configuration. So there are some situation if you want to remove an IP address from the server, basically because of a cost or a security side. The concept generally we are using that's called disassociation. Now let's connect to the portal here. Let me connect to the portal here. Already you have a two server is been configured with a public IP address here. Let's try to understand how this is can be removed. Let me connect to the portal here. So connecting to the portal here, 430095. Currently you can able to see we have a VM has been configured here. I hope you can able to see the screen. It was loading, so that's the reason it's took time. I hope you can able to see the screen here. Let me maximize. Now, if you go to the virtual machine here, we have configured three VMs here. Two VM already been configured with a public IP address, and one VM we've been configured without a public IP address also. So on the screen, you can able to see there are three VMs here. Now, let's try to understand how to remove the public IP address from here. There are some situation if the customer has been looking cost or a security side, how to protect your infrastructure from exposing to internet here. Now let's go to the VM2 properties here. If you go to VM2 properties, I'm taking you into a how to disassociate the public IP address. So at any point of time, if the customer has been looking or if you're looking for removing a public IP address here, you can go to the properties here. Now, when you go to properties here, you may be able to see an option called networking. Now, in the networking tab, you can able to see an option called network interface card here. Right side, you may be able to see a tab or an option called network interface tab, because you may be already aware that whenever you're assigning an IP address, by default, this has been assigned to a network interface card. Let me take you into on-premises scenario. In an on-premises scenario, where generally we are assigning a IP address, you may be remembering like you go to ncpa.cpl network connection. Inside a network connection, you have a NAC card option you are getting. You used to go inside the properties, and inside that you used to configure a IP address. Similarly here also, the public IP address or the private IP address is with assigned to your network interface card here. Now, whatever card you assign to Windows Server 2019 or a 2016 year or 2022, that's a virtual network interface here. I'll take you into that point in the later session. Now, if you want to remove a public IP address here, you can go to that VM properties. In the VM properties, if you go to an option called IP configuration, You can able to see the IP configuration. Bottom, you can able to see IP config tab here. Now in the IP config tab, you can able to see something called disassociate. So at any point of time, if you're thinking like you want to disassociate any public IP address, you can go to network tab. Let me repeat it. Uh, from any VM machine, you want to remove a IP address, you can go to VM properties. There you can able to see a tab or option called networking. Click on that networking option. Right side, you may be able to see something called network interface card. You can click on the network interface card. Now, if you go to the IP configuration here, you can able to see the IP config details here. The moment if you click on this IP config here, you can able to see a tab called disassociate. So the moment if you click disassociate, on the top of the screen, you may be able to see some floppy disk kind of symbol here. So the moment when you want to configure or if you want to save this one, you need to ensure that you are clicking this save button. In case if you're not doing this, you are not making that configuration changes on the server here. Now, right now you can able to see you remove this public IP address from the server here. So currently, what is the lab currently we are done? So you are in a customer place. Customer has been already created a VM with a public IP address, and the customer want to remove the public IP address. So we have seen how to disassociate that. Now, if you go back here, you can able to see here. Let's refresh. Just it's been just getting upload. You need to just wait few minutes. You can able to see for the VM2 also IP address has been removed here. You can able to see the VM2 also IP address has been removed here. Now the same step or the same procedure, you can able to do it for on the VM1 as well. In case if you want to connect to the servers and if you want to remove this IP address, it's very pretty much very simple. You need to just go to the VM properties and you can able to remove here. Now a couple of questions is coming here. Now let me take you into whiteboard here. Currently we have a 3 VM is been available. Now all this VM you have been removed public IP address. Previously, Suman, I think someone has been asking like a question, how will you connect to the servers now? Because there is no public IP address here. So let me give you a scenario here. You're working for an organization. All these VMs are being configured only with private IP address. You have a VM1, you have a VM2, you have a VM3. Now, already you understood this got a private IP address, this got a private IP address, this got a private IP address. There is no public IP address is been assigned here. Now, as a user, if I need to connect to these servers, technically I don't have a additional option is been available or I don't have option to connect to RDP here because I don't have a public IP address here. Now, using a private IP address, I have only option. I can able to communicate each other internally. Now, if someone want to connect it from externally, if someone want to take an RDP, currently I don't have any option is been available here. So I don't have a option of connecting a private IP address or I don't have any option to connect to a RDP here. So this kind of a scenario, generally in an organization, they will be placing another server on in the perimeter network. So they'll be installing another VM on in perimeter or in the external network of your perimeter. Basically, we'll be using a Windows Server 2019 or a 2022. Only for this VM, you will assign public IP address. Only for one VM, you will assign a public IP address. Now, using this private IP address, I'll be able to connect to this server, right? For example, like this got 10.0.0.4, this got 10.0.0.5, this got 10.0.6. Now this got 10.0.0.7. So this VM, which has been placing near or in the perimeter network, This will have a connectivity, or this will be able to communicate to all the internal network only for this VM, the server which you've been placing on in the external network. Only for this VM, you will be assigning a public IP address. Now, if any user, if they want to connect to internally, they will be taking a RDP to this server, which has been placed in the perimeter network. Basically, this is being known as gateway server, or few organizations this is being known as a gem server. So basically it's a server with a Windows Server operating system that got a public IP address and a private IP address. So now anyone want to connect internally to VM1 or a VM2, first I will take a RDP to this server. From this server, again I will take a RDP to this server using a private IP address. Clear? Let me pause it here in case if you have any questions. Anyone? Any doubt? How to add a public IP address? I'll take you to that. Don't worry. I'll show you that. This concept has been clear. So technically, instead of assigning public IP address to each and every individual VM here, you will be placing only public IP address to one VM, which has been placed on in a perimeter network. Only to that VM, you will be assigning a public IP address. Now, if someone want to connect internally with the help of a public IP address of that VM, basically known as gem server, I'll be taking to the server here. Can we join this VM to a portal using a private IP address? User will be able to connect. Yes. So gateway server is basically how the how to communicate VMs internally. Bhuvan, already you have a private IP address is been available here, right? All the servers will be having a private IP address is been available here. So with the help of that, you will be able to connect it here. Now, so I have to make a remote private connection. Yeah, exactly. You want to connect to a VM using a public IP of the gem server or a gateway server. That is the way it's been connecting. Now, in case if you want to connect internally, Bhuvan, you already have a private IP address assigned to your VM. Plus, you are already having a private IP address is been assigned to your gem server also. So, with the help of that, you will be able to connect it here. So that's been an advanced option, Bhuvan. Like in case if you want to go for a advanced option, you have a option of a natting or a bridging. That's been additional option you can able to use. I can directly remote to private IP address. Let me show you. Let me take in a simple way here. Right now, if you can able to see here, you have a, let me take you into the whiteboard here, into the portal here. So I think a few people has been already confused here. Don't worry. So let me take you into the portal here. How many VMs you can able to see here? Can you comment it on the chat? How many VMs you are able to see it here? 3 VMs, right? Development 1, VM2, VM3. Okay, let me remove public IP address for this over here. Now, only one server is already a public IP address also. Let me remove public IP address from here also. Right now, if you can able to see here, let me remove a public IP address here. Let me remove this public IP address also here. Okay. Now, let's wait here. Let's go back to the virtual machine here. Okay, give me a second. I'm removing the public IP address here. Let me make it very simple here. Right now, if you can able to see here, you are able to see three virtual machines here. I hope all are agreeing with this point here. Now, what is the public IP address of all this virtual machine here? Are you able to see any public IP address? Can you comment it on the chat? Are you able to see any public IP address here? No, right? Okay, everyone is been agreeing with that point here. So getting a message here, no sound. Um, I think for here, I think it's an issue with the your side because um, I can able to hear my sound on my secondary laptop. So look like it's a problem from your side here. So right now you can able to see here, we have a three computer is been available here with the development one, VM2 and VM3 here. Let me go back to the whiteboard here. You can able to see here, I have a VM1 available, VM2 available, VM3 available, and there is no public IP address. Now, if you go to properties here, you may be able to see each VM is being configured with a private IP address here. Now, if you go to VM1, you may be able to see what is the IP address has been assigned here. It's been assigned with a 10.0.0.4 here, right? Now, if you go to VM2, you may be able to see here, it's been configured with 10.0.0.5 here. If you go to VM3, you may be able to see here, it's been configured with 10.0.6 here. So let's go back here to the whiteboard. So VM1, 10.4, 5. I hope all are agree with this point here, right? Any questions, anyone? This portion has been clear. Now I have a user is sitting here. They want to connect. Any question here? If it is clear, can you comment it on the chat? We have a 3 VM is been available. There is no public IP address has been available here. Okay. Now we are trying to discuss how do we connect to the servers here. The moment if I'm trying to connect 10.0.0.4, I'll be getting an error message here because it's a private IP address, which is a non-routable IP address here. So in that kind of a situation, how will you connect here? I'll be installing another computer here. I'll be installing another computer here. I'll give a name called gateway server here. For this gateway server, I will assign a public IP address and I will assign a private IP address also. You're getting a point? Now, for accessing the three mission in the perimeter network, because way we've been removed public IP address from VM1 or a VM2 or a VM3, there are two reasons here. One is a cost. Second one is my security scenario here. Now, for connecting to this VM, I'll be installing another computer here. Let's take it as a VM4 or let's give a name gateway server here. Got another question on the chat. Um, how do we give IP address to 10.0.1.0 or a different IP address? Surak, generally this has been provided with the help of a concept called VNet. You have an option called VNet is been available. In the VNet, you need to specify this IP address. So there you can able to configure 10.0.1.0 or you can able to configure something called .172.series, etc. You can able to see here. So there is something called virtual network. You can able to see here something called virtual network. So here you will be specifying a range here. You can able to see here You can able to see here. Here you can able to specify here. In case if you want 10.1.0 or 10.0.1.0 or different IP address if you're looking, then you can able to configure it from the VNet level. So answering to your question, IP address range generally it's been configured. If it is in a cloud, it's been configured in the uh, VNet level. When it is coming on in a on-premises scenario, this generally it's been configured on in a DHCP level. Clear? Now coming on into the configuration here. Currently you have a 3 VM is been available. This 3 VM is been configured without a public IP address here. We are trying to understand how to connect to this server. So I'll be configuring another server here. Let me configure something called gateway server here. Let me configure gateway server. I'm just giving any name you can give. Okay, I'm just giving it's a gateway server. I'm just putting Windows server here. I'm just giving a server and the public IP address. I've been selected. Yes, I need a public IP address here. I'm just configured additional server here. Validation is in progress. Create. You can able to see additional server is been configured here. You can able to see the deployment is in progress here. Let's wait. You can able to see the server configuration has been completed here. Now, if you go to virtual machine here, we have a gateway server has been configured. You can able to see the VM4 or a gateway server has been configured here. You can able to see gateway server. See, gateway server has been configured. This got a public IP address. See, it's got a public IP address here. And if you go to the properties here, this got a private IP address also. So you can able to see this got a private IP address also. You can able to see this got 10.0.7 here. Now, if you go back to the whiteboard, you have a gateway server is here. You may be able to see this got a private IP address 10.0.0.7. Now this got a public IP address 20.x.x. Now, if someone want to connect to VM1 or VM2 or VM3, how I will be connecting? I'll be connecting first RDP to this server here. I already got a public IP address here, right? 20.185.40.146 here. So I'll be taking a RDP to this server here. For example, now if you go to this server here, I got a 20.series here. So let me copy paste this IP address here. Let me take MSTSC. I'll be typing 20.185.40.186. I'll be typing RDP or public IP address of the particular VM here. I'm just giving connect. I'm just pressing connect. So let's wait. It's been trying to connect to that VM. So we need to wait. Let me connect to the server. It's getting some error message. So let me reconnect it. You may be able to see we are able to connect to the gateway server here. You can able to see I'm able to connect to the gateway server here. Now, right now I've been taking a remote desktop of a gem server here. Now, in case if I need to connect to other VM, which has been hosted internally, for example, like VM1 or a VM2, from this server, I'll be taking a RDP using a public IP address, sorry, private IP address. Because if you maybe notice here, this server is already got private IP address here. See, this got 10.0.0.7 here. Now, in case if I need to connect to VM1 or a VM2, I'll be taking MSTSC, sorry, I'll be MSTSC. I'll be taking 10.0.0.4 or 5, the respective VM name or VM IP address. I can type it here. For example, like if I'm giving 10.0.0.5, see, I'll be connecting to the VM2 here. If I give username here, I can be able to connect to the particular operating system here. You can able to see from here, I can able to take a number of RDP here. Again, I'll be taking RDP connection here. Clear? So because how this has been connecting now, because the gateway server, it's got a private IP address. Now all the internal machine is been communicating also with the help of a private IP address. So this is the way gem server is been generally it's been working. I hope this has been clear. Now instead of 10.0.5, if you give other internal IP address, you will be able to take it here. So technically you can save the cost by removing the public IP address from the respective operating system. And with the help of this gateway or a gem server concept, you will be able to connect it also. Clear? If it is clear, can you comment it on in the chat? Now, I think in between someone has been asked how to add a public IP address also. How to add a public IP address? Generally, public IP address is a separate resource here. In case if someone want to add a public IP address, you can go to the search bar. From here, you can type something called public IP address. Now, in case someone want to create a public IP address, you can create a public IP address using an option called create and give the name, and you can able to configure it here. Once it is configured, there is something called association. For example, like in case if I need to assign a public IP address, you need to go to the public IP address properties, and you can able to use a topic called associate. Previously, you may be seeing uh, disassociation, right? Disassociation means that public IP address you've been removed from the VM. Now, if I need to connect it back, I need to use opposite word that's called associate. So I need to associate. So here I need to select where do I need to connect it. So I need to specify the network interface details of that particular VM, and I can able to assign it here. Yes, you can able to connect 3 VMs or a 4 VM at the same time. There is no issue. For example, like if you want to connect more than one VM here, you can able to connect it. There is no issue. Right now, you have been connected to 10.0.5 here. For example, like if I need to connect to 10.0.4, give this IP address here. I'm just giving. So I'll be getting one more window. That's all. This password has been wrong. So let me re-type the password. So I'll be getting one more window. That's all. You can connect in number of. Uh, we are getting another question like if remote, you have a file server or a print server, how do we connect from a remote location? That portion has been coming soon. It's been like we'll be discussing that. So you'll be able to connect it from right now. You can just give ipconfig all, or you need to go to the Sadiq. You can go to the properties. From there, you'll be able to see this public IP address detail. Now, we are getting another question like Rahman has been asking. You have a two VM. One is from VM1 from one region and VM12 from another region. Can be possible to connect each other? By default, Rahman, you don't have option for communicating each other. By default, it's been blocked. So there is some concept has been available on a cloud, basically known as VNet peering. So your question, Rahman has been asking a question. For example, like his VM is been configured in one data center in the East US and another is been hosted in a West US. So by default, there is a communication is been not available. So in case if you want to communicate two data center each other, you need to enable something called as VNet peering. There is a concept is been available in the cloud. There is a two-way you can able to configure. One is called global VNet peering. Second one is been known as a regional VNet peering. Sujit, you can able to use basically NATing or a firewall or a load balancer instead of a gateway server. So we'll be using a concept of a firewall, or you'll be using a LB in the perimeter network in a real-time scenarios, or you'll be using a bastion service. So today we are top of time. So tomorrow we'll be discussing about the disk management. We'll be going to the DHCP and we'll be discussing about a DNS also. Good. So any questions from anyone? So it was a nice discussion. A lot of question is been asked on the forum. That's been great. So tomorrow we'll be moving on in a DHCP, and yeah, disk management. We'll try to understand about RAID concept. We'll try to understand about how disk can be configured, how redundancy can be configured, and we'll try to understand about DORA process on in a DHCP, and we'll try to see how IP address is been given. So all this material will be uploaded before EOD. And thank you, team. And Surag, you want to add anything? If you're good, we can conclude the session.
I think we're good, and we can conclude the session.
Yeah. So thank you, team. Let's connect tomorrow. Tomorrow's topic is about DHCP and DNS. So thank you, team, and have a great day. Thank you all. We are stopping the recording and we are ending the session.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining today. Looking forward to see you